Sodom and Gomorrah. Two cities so corrupt they made Las Vegas look like a church picnic. According to the Bible, Sodom and Gomorrah were so deep in wickedness that heaven basically filed a complaint. God sent two angels to check things out, like divine inspectors, and let's just say the report wasn't great. Abraham tried to negotiate. If I find 50 good people, will you spare the city? Down to 10, still no luck. So, fire and brimstone fell from the sky like a cosmic airstrike. The cities turned to ash, the valley to smoke. It wasn't just destruction, it was a warning label for moral collapse. When heaven says enough, there's no appeal process. Lot's wife. In that same fiery chaos, Lot and his family were told one thing: run and don't look back. Simple, right? But curiosity's a powerful thing. Lot's wife couldn't resist one last peek at the inferno and instantly turned into a pillar of salt. 1 second running for her life, the next, rock solid. It's a short, haunting story, but the message hits hard. Some moments demand you move forward, not backward. She didn't just look, she lingered, and that hesitation became her end. Even today, the Dead Sea's salty shores are said to hold the memory of that glance, frozen forever in regret. And speaking of wipeouts from above, what happens when the whole world gets the reset button? Time for the biggest divine disaster of them all. Noah's flood. The world had gone off the rails. Violence, corruption, the works. So God decided to start over, but not with a smite. This time with a storm. Enter Noah, the one guy who still had a good reputation. He got a divine blueprint for a boat the size of a football stadium. 2 of every animal climbed aboard, probably confused, but hopeful. Then came 40 days of rain, oceans spilling from the sky. Everything drowned except what floated. When it finally ended, Noah sent out a dove, found dry land, and saw the rainbow, a promise that Earth wouldn't face a flood like that again. It wasn't just water, it was a restart, a second chance, divine punishment with a side of mercy. Plagues of Egypt. When Pharaoh refused to free the Hebrew slaves, the universe didn't send a polite reminder. It sent 10 plagues. First, the Nile turned to blood. Fish died, water stank, and Egypt basically became a horror movie. Then came frogs, everywhere, followed by gnats, flies, dying livestock, and boils that made everyone look like they'd lost a fight with a beehive. Hail fell like divine artillery, locusts ate the crops, and darkness swallowed the land for 3 days straight. But the last plague was the most chilling, the death of every firstborn. Only those who marked their doors with lamb's blood were spared. Pharaoh finally broke, letting the Israelites go. Each plague wasn't random. It was aimed at Egypt's gods, proving nature itself could turn against you when you defy the divine. 10 rounds of wrath later, the most powerful empire on earth learned that arrogance sinks faster than a brick in the Nile. Red Sea drowning. Freedom didn't last long before Pharaoh had second thoughts. He sent his army to chase the Israelites, who found themselves trapped between swords and seawater. But Moses raised his staff, and the Red Sea split like automatic doors for the chosen. The people crossed on dry ground, wind howling, waves towering on both sides. When Pharaoh's army charged in, the sea snapped shut, nature reclaiming its balance. In one sweeping crash, Egypt's might vanished beneath the waves. The sea became the final judge, the great equalizer of pride. One man's faith opened a path, another's ego drowned in it. And speaking of pride, there's one fall so famous, it literally set the standard for rebellion itself. Lucifer's fall. Lucifer wasn't just an angel, he was the angel. Brilliant, radiant, second only to God. But pride, that was his poison. He wanted the throne, not the choir. When he led a heavenly rebellion, the result was the universe's first coup and first defeat. Cast down from heaven like a falling star, he became the symbol of pride before destruction. What began as light turned to shadow, and paradise lost its brightest. His punishment wasn't just exile, it was transformation. From morning star to ruler of the underworld, Lucifer became the eternal reminder that even perfection can crack under ego. Iblis's exile. In Islamic tradition, Iblis was no ordinary being. He was a jinn who worshipped God alongside angels. But when God created Adam and commanded all to bow, Iblis refused. "I'm made of fire," he said, "and he's made of clay." That one line of pride sealed his fate. Cast out from heaven, Iblis became the eternal rebel, the whisperer who vowed to lead humans astray until Judgment Day. His punishment wasn't death, it was distance. A lifetime of watching what he lost, forever shut out from divine light, proving that arrogance burns longer than fire itself. She-Camel of Thamud. The people of Thamud wanted proof, a miracle to believe in. So, a camel literally stepped out of a mountain. Not a metaphor, an actual mountain birth. It was peaceful, sacred, and untouchable. But instead of respecting it, they killed it. And that one act echoed like a divine alarm. The ground shook, the air split, and the entire tribe was wiped away in an instant. No fire, no flood, just silence. Their story became one of the clearest warnings in history. Sometimes disbelief isn't punished, defiance is. And speaking of defiance, one myth shows what happens when rebellion reaches the heavens themselves. Prometheus. Prometheus wasn't evil, just too helpful for his own good. He saw humans freezing in the dark and decided, you know what? They deserve fire. So he stole it from the gods and handed it over like a mythological Robin Hood. Zeus didn't exactly applaud. Instead, he chained Prometheus to a mountain and sent an eagle to feast on his liver every single day. It grew back each night, eternal torture with a side of irony. But Prometheus didn't scream or beg. He endured, proud of his rebellion. His punishment became the price of progress, the cost of caring too much. He gave light to humanity and pain to himself, the ultimate trade between compassion and consequence. Tantalus. Tantalus had everything: royal blood, divine access, dinner with the gods, but power made him reckless. Depending on which version you read, he either stole ambrosia, spilled divine secrets, or, worst of all, served his own son at a feast just to test the gods' wisdom. Spoiler, they noticed. His punishment fit the crime perfectly. He was placed in a pool of water under hanging fruit. Every time he reached for food, the branches lifted. Every time he bent to drink, the water vanished. Hunger and thirst forever, inches away from relief. That's where we get the word tantalize, eternal temptation without satisfaction. The gods didn't just punish him, they turned him into a living metaphor for wanting what you'll never have. Sisyphus. Sisyphus was the ultimate trickster king, a man so cunning he even cheated death. Twice. He chained Thanatos, the god of death, fooled Hades, and kept slipping through the cracks of eternity. The gods finally had enough of his games, so his punishment was poetic. Roll a massive boulder up a hill forever. Each time he reached the top, the rock rolled back down. Infinite effort, zero progress. A cosmic treadmill of regret. No flames, no chains, just frustration. Greek philosophers later turned him into a symbol of endless struggle, and writers like Camus saw him as defiance itself, still pushing, still resisting. The gods gave him futility, but he answered with persistence. That's how you turn punishment into protest. Ixion on the wheel. Ixion had one job: don't cross divine boundaries. But after being shown mercy by Zeus, he tried to seduce Hera herself. Bad move. To teach him a lesson, Zeus made a fake Hera out of clouds. Ixion fell for it, and that was strike 3. For his arrogance, he was bound to a fiery, spinning wheel in the sky, turning endlessly through eternity. A punishment that never stopped moving, never stopped burning. He became a warning carved into the heavens. Gratitude is wasted on the ungrateful. And the gods? They didn't just punish betrayal. They made it a spectacle. Danaides, 50 brides, 50 grooms, one horrifying wedding night. The Danaides, daughters of King Danaus, were forced to marry their cousins. But when the candles went out, 49 of them murdered their husbands in cold blood. The gods didn't need fire or lightning this time. The punishment was pure irony. In the afterlife, the sisters were sentenced to fill a leaking basin with water forever. No matter how hard they worked, it never filled. A lifetime of wasted effort for a moment of blind obedience. Enkidu's death. Enkidu wasn't just a man. He was half wild, half hero, and the closest thing Gilgamesh had to a conscience. Together they slayed monsters, and even the bull of heaven. But the gods don't like when mortals act fearless, so they chose Enkidu to die slowly, writhing in sickness sent from above. As he faded, he cursed everything that made him human: his food, his friends, his fate. But before the end, he understood. The gods weren't punishing his body. They were teaching mortality itself. His death hit Gilgamesh harder than any sword. It made him realize even heroes have an expiration date. And speaking of realizing too late, our next one thought she could outshine the gods themselves. Yeah, that went about as well as you'd think. Niobe's children. Niobe was the queen who had it all: beauty, power, and 12 kids to prove it. When she mocked the goddess Leto for having only 2, she basically signed her own disaster letter. Leto's children, Apollo and Artemis, rained arrows like divine snipers, killing every one of Niobe's children before her eyes. Her laughter turned into screams, and her pride froze solid. Literally. The gods turned her into stone, but her tears kept flowing forever. So yeah, the message was loud and clear. Bragging rights don't work so well when your audience is immortal. Loki bound. Loki, the god of mischief, chaos, and bad decisions. He caused so much trouble that even the gods had to pause and go, "Okay, that's enough." After tricking Hudr into killing Baldur, the purest of them all, Loki ran, shape-shifted, and hid. But you can't out-trick destiny. When they caught him, the punishment was creative. They tied him beneath the earth with the entrails of his own son, because Norse gods didn't do mild. Above his face, a venomous serpent dripped poison, each drop burning like fire. His wife Sigyn sat beside him, catching the drops in a bowl, but every time she emptied it, the poison hit again, and Loki screamed so loud mortals called it earthquakes, eternal pain for eternal trickery. Fenrir bound. Now if Loki's punishment was brutal, wait till you hear what they did to his son. Fenrir wasn't just a wolf, he was a doomsday prophecy on 4 legs. The gods, terrified of what he'd become, decided to chain him. But Fenrir wasn't stupid. He only agreed if one of them put a hand in his mouth as a show of trust. The god Tyr stepped up and lost that hand the second Fenrir realized he'd been tricked. Bound with a magical ribbon made from impossible things, like a cat's footstep and a fish's breath, Fenrir stayed tied, seething with rage. The gods thought they'd stopped the end of the world. Spoiler, they just delayed it. And while Norse gods were busy playing Tie Up the Apocalypse, another ancient king got his own divine leash, this time from Persian legend. Zahhak chained. Zahhak started out as a normal king until evil whispered in his ear. Literally. The devil kissed his shoulders, and from that spot grew 2 venomous snakes that demanded human brains for dinner. Every day, for years, his kingdom turned into a nightmare buffet. But heroes always rise. Farad'n finally defeated Zahhak, chaining him deep within Mount Damavand. There, he was left to rot, the snakes still writhing, his screams echoing through the mountain's heart. The Persian myth says he'll break free at the world's end. But until then, he's basically history's worst dinner guest, locked away with his own hunger forever. Maui and Hine-nui-te-pō. Maui, the Polynesian demigod who could lasso the sun, fish up islands, and outwit gods. But even tricksters meet their match. When Maui tried to cheat death by crawling into the body of Hine-nui-te-pō, the goddess of the underworld, his plan was simple. Enter through her mouth, exit through her, well, other side. Immortality achieved. Except a startled bird laughed mid-mission, waking her up. Hine crushed Maui instantly. No retreats, no continues. That's why humans die, the legends say. Maui didn't lose because he wasn't clever enough, just because even death has a sense of timing. Ashwatthama's wandering. Ashwatthama wasn't a villain, just a warrior who snapped. After losing everything in the Mahabharata war, he unleashed a forbidden weapon, wiping out unborn lives in revenge. The gods were not impressed. Krishna cursed him with immortality, the kind no one wants. His wounds would never heal, his pain would never fade, and he'd wander the earth alone until the end of time. Imagine being a ghost in your own body for eternity, knowing the world forgot you but your punishment never does. They say he still roams, neither alive nor dead, carrying regret heavier than any weapon. And while cursed wanderers walk the earth forever, in Lanka, another kind of end was being written, a king's final stand against destiny. Ravana's death. Ravana, the 10-headed king of Lanka, was genius, warrior, and devotee, all crammed into one unstoppable being. But pride? That was his fatal weapon. When he kidnapped Sita, the wife of Lord Rama, it sparked the War of Wars. Ravana fought like a storm, his 10 minds calculating, 10 voices roaring, but even 10 heads couldn't outthink fate. Rama's arrow pierced his heart, ending his reign. As he fell, Ravana didn't beg. He smiled. He'd lived as a conqueror, died as a legend. Some say his death wasn't defeat, it was balance restored. Because even kings fall when their pride burns brighter than their wisdom. 5 sons. The Aztecs didn't believe in one apocalypse. They believed in 5. Each world or sun had its own grand finale, and spoiler alert, none ended well. The first was devoured by jaguars. The second, blown away by hurricanes. The third burned to ash, and the fourth drowned under endless floods. Each destruction reset reality, like the universe hitting new game over and over. We live under the 5th sun, born from sacrifice and fire. The gods threw themselves into the blaze just to keep it shining. But they warned, it won't last forever. When the balance tips again, the sky will fall, the earth will quake, and humanity's final sunset will come. The Aztecs didn't see apocalypse as doom. It was cosmic recycling with a side of existential dread. Sun Wukong's imprisonment. Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, was the ultimate overachiever. Born from stone, trained by gods, and powered by pure chaos, he crashed heaven's party, stole the Jade Emperor's thunder, and demanded to be called Great Sage Equal to Heaven. The gods predictably didn't love that. Even after surviving armies and gods, Buddha himself stepped in, literally trapping Wukong under a mountain for 500 years. Immortal, invincible, but completely stuck. His crime? Pride. His sentence? Patience. When he was finally freed, it wasn't with force, but with purpose, joining a monk's journey to redemption. Turns out, even monkeys can outgrow mischief. And speaking of pride hanging by a thread, one ancient Greek story turned that idea into a literal warning sign. Sword of Damocles. Damocles wanted the royal life, the luxury, the power, the feasts. King Dionysius said, "Sure, take the throne for a day." It was perfect, until Damocles looked up. Above his head hung a sword, dangling by a single horsehair. Suddenly that gold plate of grapes didn't taste so sweet. The sword showed that power isn't comfort. It's constant danger, always hanging by a thread. No battle, no monsters, just fear sharpened into steel. Today, the Sword of Damocles still means the same thing, that every throne, every success has a shadow above it. Ahalya's curse. Ahalya was said to be so beautiful that even gods noticed. Indra, king of heaven, took notice a bit too much. He disguised himself as her husband, sage Gautama. When Gautama discovered the deceit, his rage burned hotter than any ritual fire. He cursed Ahalya to turn invisible, to live unseen and unfed, surrounded by dust and regret. Centuries passed until Lord Rama's footstep brushed the ashes, lifting her curse in a beam of light. In some tellings, her sin wasn't lust, it was deception itself. Ahalya's punishment wasn't death, it was isolation, the quiet kind that echoes. In Hindu myth, even God's tricks could leave mortals frozen between guilt and forgiveness. Mandavya's impalement. Sage Mandavya was known for meditation so deep, birds built nests in his hair. Then one day, thieves hid their loot in his hermitage, and the king's guards found it. Without a trial, they impaled the old sage on a stake. Still alive, Mandavya called out to Dharma, the god of justice, demanding an explanation. Dharma said it was karma, from when Mandavya stabbed insects as a child. The sage wasn't impressed. He cursed Dharma himself to be born as a mortal, saying justice without mercy was no justice at all. Mandavya's story flipped divine order on its head. Even heaven's law had to answer for overreach. And if you thought being impaled was bad, wait till you hear about a king who got downgraded to snake form. Yayati's curse. King Yayati had it all: youth, power, and a dangerous sense of, "I deserve more." When his lust and pride clashed with divine patience, the sage Shukra cursed him to lose his youth instantly. In one version, he was turned into a writhing python, condemned to crawl until he learned humility. Imagine going from a golden throne to a cold patch of dirt overnight. But Yayati wasn't doomed. His punishment was a mirror. Crawling through the mud, he finally understood the weight of desire. When he accepted aging and impermanence, the curse broke. Divine punishment here wasn't just pain. It was education, coiled in scales and silence. Across myths, legends, and religions, one truth slices through them all: power, pride, and fate always come with a price. If you like this, give it a thumbs up, and hey, subscribing wouldn't hurt.